On this episode, we are getting rid of the straight axle in the front of my 38 because it's not the 1930s anymore, and I would like this thing to handle like it's a car and not a hay wagon, and it's just plain in the way. So you can see here, this is our box of components from Kugel Komponents, spelled with a K on both of those. I learned how to spell at Richland, but I think components starts with a C. Anyway, here is our cross member that's going to get welded into our frame, and then I assume in this big long box is going to be our steering rack, and then these will be our A-arms going to our knuckles to hold our brakes and everything along those lines. Without further ado, let's get down to it. The welds on this thing just look amazing. I mean, you know, really high quality. Gotta hand it to Kugel Komponents. Let's see what's in this big box. I love packing staples. They feel good on the skin. Nice and sharp. Oh, all right. They didn't want me in here. Ow. Blood, sweat, and tears. I'm not crying yet. Come on now. Just open. Reveal your secrets. That's how we do it. Okay. This side. Oh yes. All right. Looks like we got our new sway bar with really nice billet links here. Nice polyurethane bushings, man. Oh, here's our sway bar links and attachments and stuff. Oh, okay. Our coilovers are in here. So. Gotta break out the old knife. Oh, this is way too nice for Dirty White Boy's garage. Look at these. QA1 adjustable coilovers. I'll be able to dial in at least my front suspension. Rear is still stock 1938. Ooh. And the piece de resistance. The steering rack. So this is a Dodge Omni steering rack, and the reason I decided to go with Kugel Komponents with their independent front suspension kit was the fact that they use an Omni rack and it's bolted at the back. So this isn't the most forward part on the car. So if I were to hit, like, say, a stump or something, it would hit this big beefy hunk of metal first, and it wouldn't hit the rack. It's not a Mustang 2 setup like most of your independent front suspension kits. A lot of your street rods got Mustang 2 up front. And I am going to have all custom suspension with the Dodge Omni rack. Plus, with this being at the back, this way, the steering shaft doesn't have to go up and over and around things and get in the way of everything. It just goes straight down out of the steering shaft and into the front of the rack. This is not a power rack. I didn't upgrade to power steering, but I've been driving without power steering in that car for 15 years, so I think I can handle it. It's not that bad. I mean, everybody thinks you need power steering for everything. You really don't. When you're moving, you're not gonna miss it. Fiero doesn't have power steering. All right, let's see what's in these boxes. Jeff from Kugel Komponents, if you're watching, you guys did a bang up job packaging this. Holy heck. Oh, these are so nice. These are our control arms. Might be upper, might be lower, gotta read the directions. But we've got our adjustable little eccentrics in the center, and this whole thing is put together with these really trick poly bushings here, and this is all custom made. I called up Kugel and they asked what car I was putting it on, and I said a 38, and they said, well, we have drawings for a 37 and a 39, so you want to go measure your car? So I did, and they welded this all up custom. I can't go to Summit Racing and buy this off the shelf. Hopefully I never break it. I assume like the ball joint must be some sort of part, but I do plan on owning this car long enough. I might need to replace these one day, but at least the ball joint. This is really nice. Just check out these welds. That was done by a guy just on a shelf or on a bench. Just work that bead right around. Someone a lot more talented than me. Oh, this one must be the lower, because it's got the mount for the coilover on it. All right, that one's the lower, this one's the upper. I just got the grease on myself. Oh yes, oh my God, oh it's heavy. Here's our and here's our steering knuckle. Everything you need. Everything's all put together. Nice. Look at that. Nice Kugel Komponents steering knuckle. Focus. There it goes. With our Willwood brake caliper here. I think it's a 4-piston? Yeah, 4-piston. Oh, using a, I believe this is a Chevy like S10 or Camaro rotor, which is actually already what I had on the car. He did assure me that this is going to fit a 14-inch wheel, but just. It doesn't look like it's going to fit by a lot. But we'll find out. If we get to the end of this and I need to order new wheels, that would suck. But, oh, it's so nice. Alright, that's it for that box. And I can only assume that the next box is exactly the same. So, we are not sponsored by Kugel Komponents. I would love to be. He didn't even give me a discount. But, so this is way over budget for a normal Dirty White Boys Garage episode. At the time of filming, this was near as makes no difference $4 grand. I have to soak that in. Just just come to terms with it. This is $4 grand worth of boxes. But it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be so nice when it's on the car. I've been driving that car for 15 years with just steering. So this is going to be such an upgrade. So again, thanks Jeff, if you're watching, Jeff Kugel. And let's get this thing put on the car. Of course, leave it to me to discover things after I hit go on the camera, but I got a parts list right here from Kugel, so if I ever need to replace anything. So I'm gonna keep this in the car just in case if I'm out somewhere, say I'm driving through like Arizona or something, I need new rotors. But the rotor is from a Ford Granada from 75 to 78. The rack and pinion is Dodge Omni from 83 to 85, and the tie rod ends, but yeah, Ford Granada for the rotor. What made you choose that? I don't get it. I don't get it. Okay, well, let's do this. There we go. All right, first things first, we have to take our little protractor here and find out what angle our frame is before we start, because we want the car to sit like it is right now. This is a good rake. It's looked good for the last like 15 years, so I want it to be roughly at this height. So we want the cross member that we weld in to be straight up and down when the frame is at this angle. So if the frame's at an angle like this, we need to weld this so it's straight up and down at that angle doohickey. So I gotta figure out where we are right now in reference to the ground, because when we go to put this on the hoist, it's going to lift the frame at a different angle, and we need everything to be straight in reference to the ground, not straight in reference to the frame. So find a nice flat spot. Our first step is to pull everything apart so we can get the axle center line, so we can see exactly where that big cross member needs to weld up to the frame, and if it's going to hit anything. I honestly don't know yet. When I ordered the kit in the standard S10 bolt pattern, because my original rotors on here were just modified to fit my solid axle, and they're an S10 rotor, so it's an S10 pattern. I do have Unilug wheels, but the rear is also a standard Chevy pattern, so I wanted it to match both sides, so I ended up with Ford Granada brakes. Is what it is. This is what I was running before. It's my stock axle with just a conversion kit on it to run disc brakes. When I built this car originally with my grandpa back when I was 15, alright, so he did most of the work, but grandpa didn't want me to die, so we at least put disc brakes on it, which is nice. This is more recently here. I actually broke the sway bar end link, and I had to fabricate a new one out of some joints that I got at the hardware store. It worked. I mean, it hasn't broke yet. I just welded that on the end there and then made this piece, and this was just a clevis that I bought at the store, and it bolted right on. So it worked, but this car still didn't handle well. I mean, that's a pretty small bar, and you're not stopping the fact that you've got 2 leaf springs here. So yeah, let's take all this gibbons out. This is where the project goes awry. Take 1. We've run into a snag. So this part welds to the bottom of the frame, and the suspension pieces go here, and you want them to come out straight so that the A-arms are straight and they go up when you hit a bump and they go down when you jump it. And it's designed so that the center line of the axle is going to be about 1 inch above here, above this thing. It's going to be 1 inch higher. So that's where the center line is. The rotor's going to be out here. I gotta hand it, they didn't know this. I'm going to set this down, it's heavy. They didn't know this when I told them I had a 38 Plymouth. They assumed that it was the same as a 38 Ford or a 38 Chevy. But they thought this frame was straight. So this frame kicks up 5 inches, which means that I'm going to have to weld 5 inches of extra frame on the bottom of this to make this all work. It's going to be the strongest 38 Plymouth frame in existence, but it's a little bit more work. We've hit our first snag. This is not where it sits at ride height. I've actually got a jack right here. So this is where the car normally sits, and if you notice, the spring is straight. So the spring is sitting where they thought the frame was. I talked to Jeff at Kugel Komponents, and they were really, really nice. He's like, we're sorry about that. Either way, you would have had to weld something in because that's got to hang down low enough to make this work. But they've never done a 38 Plymouth exactly, and apparently they changed frames drastically over the years. So I'm their R&D department right now. I'm going to run to the metal store and buy a bunch of tubing, square tube, to plasma cut out to shape and weld in. So here goes nothing. We got our suspension removed. All of our axle is gone. And now we need to plate the frame so that the crossmember has something to weld to. So I picked up these pieces of channel. They're 4 inches. They got a little notch at the end. And I got 4 of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plate both sides, weld it up flush, and weld the seam on the bottom, which is how they make frames anyway. That's how they made this frame. So it'll be pretty strong. You got to get it level because the car is level right now. The back of the frame is dead level to the ground because of the way that the lift works. So if I make this dead level, then I know I'm level with the rest of the frame. So I got my cardboard for my CAD design, good old cardboard aided design. And just gonna get to work with the scissors and the Sharpie and make my pattern. I have to leave these 2 holes or bolts here because these are holding the engine in. But other than that, all the rest of these holes are irrelevant. This is where the shock mount used to be. That's the brake line. But there's some holes here that's actually my axle center line. So that's a very important hole. Can't cover that one. But I'll do this on the outside, and then I'll do it on the inside too, and weld up the center. So should be pretty strong. Well, get to work. Okay, now that we've got our frame extended, I had to cut an 1/8 inch off each side of this bracket because it was measured to fit the frame. So now the frame's an 1/8 inch wider because I got 1/8 inch plates on both sides. So all I gotta do is stick this up there, make sure it is dead straight, and in there. All right, fellas, let's do this.
Nice.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it, Bill.
You're welcome.
You're so helpful, Bill. Bill, damn it.
Hang it up where it belongs.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that was the hubcap hanging hook.
Alright.
Ben's got a box. So, we've run into our second really big snag. After getting the whole cross member burned in here, we mocked up our steering rack, and she hits right here. Right in the center of that. Like not even a little bit. Like not bended a little bit out of the way. It is right there. So we're about to sawzall off the header right there with that. And this car will eventually get block hugger shorty headers and have to get a new piece of exhaust welded onto there. So you look way too excited to sawzall into my car.
You're gonna do it.
Yeah, you're dang right I'm gonna do it. If somebody's gonna give surgery to my baby, it better be me.
I'm just preparing you. Here, just weld it back on.
Yeah, just Zeus it back on. Thank you. On to the part that I know I've been waiting for. I don't know if you guys have been waiting for it. Bolting shiny parts onto the car. I don't know if you've guessed by the change in wardrobe, but this is day 4. It's been a minute. But now we get to do the really fun part. So this one's got the mount for the coilover. Oh, it's becoming real. when you put together suspension components like this, don't tighten anything all the way down until you get the car sitting on its own weight. So you don't bind up any bushings in a position they're not going to be in most of the time. Now this has got these nice poly bushings, and quite frankly it's not built like a stock car anyway, so the bushings don't bind up as much as they do in a normal car, but still a good rule of thumb to follow. Okay, so this is the important part. We got a smaller eccentric here and a bigger one here. Now, how I put that on the car moves the upper control arm forward and aft, and it adjusts our caster. Now, caster is very important. You don't normally have to deal with it on your standard run-of-the-mill project, but this is not your standard run-of-the-mill project. I've got spacers on both sides that I can do the same with if I don't need that gross of an adjustment. And then these things themselves are eccentrics. So they turn, which allows me to move my control arm in and out and in. And that gives us our camber. You've all heard of camber because of those ridiculous idiots in Civics. So I don't know how this car is going to want this. The caster is how much your wheel leans forward or back. Now I know that sounds stupid because the wheel is round, but your pivot point of your wheel, imagine it was a straight line up and down. Now you move that straight line forward and it acts like a shopping cart. It will want to return to center. You move it back, dragsters have it back, it'll want to like flop over, but it'll be more darty and easier to turn. So according to our instructions, we want, okay, now I gotta read it again. We want approximately -2 degrees of caster. Now that all depends on how straight I put this. I'd like to hope I got it straight. Because if you screw this up, then you're not going to be able to adjust it out with this. And also I was forewarned by Jeff at Kugel Komponents that if you put this thing on dead straight to the frame and you set the car down and you've got little tiny tires up here and big ones in the back and the thing sits like this anyway, well now your caster has just moved forward and you're not going to be able to adjust that out to make it steer right. So you have to have this level with the ground at ride height. So what I did was I measured the frame at the ground at ride height with the rear air shocks pumped up to what I usually have them set at, and that's what we've welded this in here. Now this whole thing is going to give the front end of the car about 1 inch of drop. Because of the way this is designed and as much material as I added, if I had added 1 more inch, I would have been at the same height as I was. But I figured while we're here, I'm gonna lower the front a little. It could stand to have a little bit more tuck. You know, it kind of fails a shoe test. So that can adjust things too. You have the front end is now 1 inch lower. It adjusts the angle that everything sits at. I figure worst case scenario, I'll lower the back too, because more load. So I'm just gonna slam this together, make adjustments as we go. It's not going to be all that difficult to take this apart and put it back together again. Come down. Your tire contacted. Okay, it's in neutral, it's rolling away. Yeah. Actually,
It's about the same.
it's about the same. That's nice. Okay, we are headed down to Knoxville, Tennessee for the NSRA Nationals. Nationals South, I think, right? Yeah. And we're going 70 miles an hour down the highway. It is a gloomy day. It has been like this the entire time we've been driving. We've just been in and out. Pothole. We've just been in and out of rain and mist, and oh, it's just been awful. But the car has been performing pretty dang well. I don't think I have enough caster dialed into her. It was 0 caster when I took it to the alignment shop, and I wasn't about to pull the control arm off at the alignment shop, so we dialed the camber and dialed in the toe, and I had to adjust the caster. So I put one of the washers forward where we had it before, which leans the caster forward, but I don't think I put enough. It's still kind of like if you point it somewhere, it keeps going. It doesn't want to continue straight. But I mean, it's 2-finger drivable. This is 1,000 times better than before. Before it was you hit a bump and it tried to rip the steering wheel out of your hand. Every time the steering or the suspension went up and down, the steering went left and right. So you kind of had to drive it like loose, but not. You kind of had to let it do what it wanted, but at the same time be in control of it. It was not a relaxing experience. We drove down to Louisville last year for the 2 years ago for the. Oh yeah, I forgot 2020 didn't exist. We drove down 2 years ago for the Nationals, the main one, like 15,000 cars or something like that.
It was the 50th anniversary.
The 50th anniversary, and so we drove it down, and yeah, it was interesting to say the least. It was at least sunny when we did that, but so we're driving a little farther today. We're doing it all in one shot. We split it up before. We actually stayed at Giselle's parents' house. That was about a third of the way down, and then we did the rest of it the next day. It was nice, sunny out. But anyway, we haven't had too many calamities yet. Just keeping up on fluids and our brakes, making sure we got oil pressure. I do want to murder the guy that decided that full is at the bottom of the gauge and empty is at the top, because it looks like it's empty right now, and it's not. These gauges were way too expensive for them to be like just mismanaged and poorly designed. But we'll check in with you when we're actually at the show tomorrow. Should be thousands of cars. I mean, any one of these NSRA shows has got over 1,000. And hopefully the weather will be nice. So we'll check in with you later. See ya. So we made it here to NSRA Nationals South down in Knoxville, Tennessee. I got it right that time. The car did great. It cruised down the highway nice and straight. We did lose most of our brakes. Essentially, we could touch the pedal to the floor before it really does anything, but it does slow us down, so we got extra medium, so it's been, safe enough. We're in the safety team, and I'm saying this. My car would fail in the safety, but yeah, it's never a reason to not get safety checked. But there's over 500 cars at this event, and
I think like 1,000.
like 1,000. Well, I mean, we were 5 something, so. And lots of people.
Just cut that part.
Yeah, I cut that part out. Well, we're just walking around looking at all the cars. There's some very, very beautiful cars here. Just absolutely gorgeous. And you're noticing I'm wearing a blue shirt that says NSRA official. I actually have a job here. So I've been managing the cool pickups area for the last like 5 hours. So now Giselle and I get to walk around and look at stuff.
Like this.
So let's go look at cars. Probably not going to be able to use any of that because of the copyright.
Ooh, check out this Dodge.
I've never been.
What do you want to say to the world?
If you want to come to the car show right now, we're at the car show. Come on down and have a great time and have a fun time seeing the cars and trucks.
That was very good, bud.
And
Keep going.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, you did a good job. Give me 5. There you go.
Thanks.